Let's get news editor Zakir Hussain to weigh in on today's campaigning. Just yesterday, we heard PAP say the opposition lacked concrete COVID-19 plans. Then last night, SDP's Dr. Paul Tambaya responded with his own criticism of how the PAP ministers handled the situation.
Minister Lawrence Wong responded swiftly this morning to Dr. Tambaya's comments that the multi-ministry task force didn't rely on medical experts' advice in its work. But before we get into the discussion with Zakir, let's first replay what Mr. Wong said.
I fully respect Professor Tambaya as a leading expert in his field, but it is very disappointing that he has deliberately chosen to distort the facts just to try and score some political points.
Welcome, Zakir. Now, what do you make of the arguments, from both sides?
I think the arguments made by the SDP as well as several of the other opposition parties have been on the back of Singaporeans' minds, in a sense. And I think whichever side of the political fence they're on, the fact that, the election comes even as COVID-19 is still a concern, is at the back of the minds. But at the same time, what Minister Wong said, the facts are that the politicians have not been distracted by the election in handling COVID-19. The multi-ministry task force, yes, it's led by two ministers who are candidates themselves, but at the same time, they also rely quite heavily on medical experts and the Director of Medical Services, for instance, is fronting is at almost every press conference, and a lot of the work that's going on is actually handled by public servants at the same time. And I expect the SDP will have its comeback to this maybe this evening or tomorrow. And I think it's really that I think is one of the points that I think voters are trying to get around themselves as well. COVID is very much about, this election is very much about COVID and the government's response to it. And now that COVID is going to be with us for, I think, many more months, it's not an issue that will go away before polling day.
Right, well, Zakir, let's move on to another topic. We learned shortly before the show that WP candidate Raisa Khan is being investigated by the police for comments she made online. Do you have further insights on this?
I think one of the police release actually cited a couple of incidents of comments she made. The first, it seems, had to do with an issue which I think many people felt strongly about when a group of expatriates were not keeping in line with social distancing measures along Robertson Quay. The second incident to do with an article in the City Harvest Church ruling was actually made, I believe, 2 years ago in 2018. And this was done some time back. But I think the immediate public reaction has also been mixed. There's some people who, might not have made up their minds, who might feel that, maybe this isn't a candidate they want to back. But there are others who also feel that this is, seen as a politically motivated instance of police reports being lodged and so on.
Now, Zakir, you touched on this a little bit, but let's build on what you just said. Ms. Raisa is, of course, running in Sengkang GRC specifically, now which has been closely watched. How much would this affect Workers' Party's campaign there?
It remains to be seen, I think. Sengkang is a new GRC, but as we've seen, Sengkang West, two large former SMCs that are now part of this GRC have had strong contests with the Workers' Party in recent years. The Workers' Party has contested Sengkang West in the past two elections and gotten close to 40% of the votes. It held Punggol East for some time after the 2013 by-election. And on walkabouts, as well as on visits to the constituency, we see Workers' Party candidates, I think, getting a significant amount of support on the ground. But at the same time, the PAP team there is not a weak one, right? They've got a strong slate, Labour Chief Ng Chee Meng, two other office holders. And I think candidates, this is a contest that could be close, I think. And it remains to be seen. I think what developments like today's do is they might, I think, give voters pause to again think seriously about their choices come polling day.
Right. Well, thank you as always for your time, Zak. We've been speaking to news editor at the Straits Times, Zakir Hussain.